Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial. Today's tutorial I'm going to talk about the software testing. Software testing is a very important aspect in development. We have to do some sort of coding in order to see that whether our output is actually what it was intended for. So that means a software testing is a process of testing the validity of a code for expected outcome. Test is done to see if actual output equates expected output. Okay, so basically we would like to see that whether the output that we are getting is the desired output or not. And this ensures that the software is defect free. So there are a few types of software testing. The first one is the functional testing, and we sometimes call it the unit testing. And then we have the non-functional testing, which is the performance testing or load balancing testing. And then we have maintenance testing, which is the regression testing. So for this purpose or for this tutorial, we are just going to focus on the unit testing. And the unit testing is done against a piece of code that we would like to see that whether that the output is desired output or not. So now let's move on to the unit testing, and in the next slide. A unit of software is tested, such as a method. We know the classes are based on different methods. So in a software testing environment, with the unit testing, we test each of the methods that whether the output is giving the desired output or not. The method is isolated and tested its outcome to see if actual and expected output are same. A test done during development time, it reduces software bugs and help code maintenance and automated testing, and we have a framework, we call that the JUnit. So we have to remember here that whenever we are doing the unit testing, we have to isolate the method so that the method is delivering what the actual output or what the desired output should be. Okay, now let's move on to the framework, the JUnit. So the JUnit is an open source testing framework for Java applications, annotation based, and there is a sample example. So again, JUnit is a framework. We will see that whenever we are going to make the Eclipse project, okay, automatically you will see that the JUnit framework is provided within the Maven framework. Okay, so let me show you over here. And in the POM, you can see that this is the dependency over here. The JUnit, the group ID is JUnit, and artifact ID is JUnit, and the version that we are going to use for this project is 4.12. Now, how we are going to integrate that JUnit within our framework or within our application, we'll see that in the actual project. But let's view over here just into a piece of code. So let's say the class that we are going to test is myMath, and we have defined a myMath test. So this is kind of a norm that we put a test at the end of the class. And myMath test is doing what? Is doing testing on this method. So that means myMath has a method that is called add. Okay, so that is called add. And we are going to test this method in isolation. So what we are going to test is there are things like assert equals 7. So this is what our expected output. And then test add 5 add should be 7. Okay, so that means we are calling this method add method, and we are passing on these 5 and 2 parameters, okay, in the add method of myMethod class. Okay, and we are saying that the add should be 7. Okay, so that means 5 plus 2 7, and this output is going to be equal to this output. And whenever we are passing on -2, so we have to take different parameters. So in this case, we have taken, the first one is we have taken a positive parameter, but in the second case, we have taken a negative parameter, so -2. So in that case, we are passing on 5 minus 7, and we are saying that this should be -2 and add should be -2. So there should be many more testings done as well. And for example, we can say that assert equals -2 and the first parameter is -7 and the second parameter is 5. So we can add another test case over here. And we have to, as a developer, we have to always figure out that what can be different combinations of it. We have to foresee, or we have to check different combinations and see that what the output is going to be. Okay, so that's all for today's tutorial. We just get familiar with a little bit with the JUnit and what the JUnit is doing. And in the actual scenario, we sometimes call a test-driven development, TDD. So the TDD is an ideal way of development. In that case, we develop the test case first, or the testing first, and then we write our code. Okay, so we are not going to do the TDD over here. We are just going to use the JUnit framework to do some test cases and testing and how it works. Okay, so that's all for today's tutorial. Thank you.